too.
And everyone is in the meeting.
Okay, it is July 13th, 2023. This is a meeting of the Bolton, Massachusetts Select Board. The first item on our agenda this evening is to vote on end of year transfers. Our fiscal year ended this past June 30th. The town has a couple of weeks to legally move some money that was unspent into such things as snow and ice budget, which runs at a deficit every year. So let me just turn it briefly over to Ninotchka to walk us through the kinds of things we're looking at. I don't know that you need to read everything, but if you happen to have a total of the whole package, that would be interesting. You're muted.
Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I don't have a total right here, but the snow and ice was a little bit under 300,000. I want to say like 280 something. So that's the majority of the transfers you see right there. And everything else is just transferring in between, say, wages and expenses, or, you know, $400 to cemetery from DPW, just some various cleanup issues. The biggest is snow and ice, and luckily we had enough turnbacks to cover it, so we don't have to raise it on the recap.
Okay, we're having a joint meeting with the advisory committee tonight, and I forgot to allow Bob to call his committee to order.
Thank you. As Bob mentioned, this is a joint meeting with the Bolton Advisory Committee.
Are there any questions from the select board or members of the advisory committee on these transfers?
Not for me. I'm good.
Not for me either.
Anybody on advisory?
No, I'm here.
All right. Bob, do you want to go ahead and have a vote first?
Okay. Is there a motion from the advisory committee to approve these end of year transfers?
I move we approve these end of year transfers.
I second that.
All right, advisory committee roll call. Craig,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well.
All right, thank you. Do I have a motion from the select board?
Make a motion, we approve the FY23 end of year transfers based on the form that Ninotchka has provided.
Second that.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Stan,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
and I'm a yes also.
All
All
right.
right, excellent. Bob, would you like to move to adjourn your committee?
Yes, we would. Is there a motion from the advisory committee to adjourn our portion?
I move we adjourn our portion.
I second.
All right, advisory committee, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you very much.
Thank
All
you.
right, good night. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, everyone.
You.
Next on our agenda tonight is a request from DPW Director Randall Heglin regarding no parking zones in the center of town. Is Randy with us?
No, I didn't.
Sorry, may I interrupt?
Sure.
Because DPW, I mean, Randy and Mary aren't coming and Kristen Noel is here. I wonder if you would feel comfortable flip-flopping items 1 and 2. I mean, sorry, 2 and 3 on the agenda.
Oh, so are we expecting Randy?
No, I did
No.
not ask Randy to attend.
Okay. Okay, well, Don, you want to walk us through the issues here?
Sure. So the issues are, Randy has observed over time that we don't have no parking.
Wait. Didn't Jenny ask that the 2 agenda items be flipped?
I just thought to get Kristen out of the
Oh,
meeting
okay.
early.
I'm sorry. I thought you were delaying in order for Randy to show up. Okay.
No.
If it's no objection with Stan or Brian, yes,
Nope.
we could have Kristen go next.
Yep.
Sounds good.
That's fine with me.
Okay. Kristen, thank you for attending tonight's meeting.
Thanks for having me.
You're here as, because you're going to be taking on, representing the citizens of Bolton's interests in a Neshoba Regional School District bonding subcommittee to consider payment options and financing for the new high school should it pass, the vote pass in September. Can you give us a little more background on what that committee is going to be covering?
Quite honestly, I'm not really sure I can give a lot of background. I know I did speak with the business manager, and it will primarily, I believe, there'll be a representative from the other towns as well, a financial representative. And what I can speak to probably a little bit better than what will be part of my responsibility is just the fact that we went through a similar process with the town of Bolton. Almost 3 years ago now, we refinanced a lot of our borrowings and our debt, and we were able to save a considerable amount of money. But part of that refinancing is going out and getting a bond rating, which is what the school will be doing. So I can bring some of my experience to that group. And it really is determining, well, I'm not sure how much impact, I'm not really sure what I'll be doing, but I know the bond rating, it'll be determining the credit worthiness of the debt that we'd be looking to sell, and really kind of just figuring out what the best and most economical way to finance, how long, terms, things of that nature. And based on the credit rating, that's gonna make a big difference. So I'm hoping, I know we worked with Standard & Poor's when we did our credit rating with the town. I also went through this process with another community prior to Bolton. So I've gone through it twice, and, I'm hoping I have some insight to offer to the committee.
Sounds good. Brian, Stan, do you have any questions or comments?
Actually, yes. As far as this committee, can you possibly address whether or not, the Kirk Downing has said that, okay, at the moment, the full cost of the school is $241, and with whatever percentage that the state's going to kick in, it's around, the last time I heard of, like $187. So it's like a $50-some-odd million difference. Does the district need to borrow the full amount? Because my understanding, perhaps incorrectly, is that the state doesn't give the $55 million quote unquote reimbursement for whatever's reimbursable upfront, but they dole it out over the 30-year period. So does the district need to borrow the full amount, and the state provides some, what I would call principal payments over the 30-year life of the loan? How does that work?
Honestly, Stan, I haven't met with anyone yet. This is the first time. So my prior community, as well as Bolton, obviously have been part of regional school districts. So I've never actually been part of a borrowing with the school directly. I know a lot of these grants are reimbursable, but as far as the structure and the timing of the funding, I am not sure. Hopefully, after our first meeting, I can bring back some better information for you.
No, thanks. I appreciate that, because it's a big difference if the district has to borrow and the towns have to pay interest on 241 versus
Of course.
241 less whatever the reimbursement is. So.
And I think what happens is, I do believe they borrow incrementally as well. I don't believe they borrow the total amount all at once. But again, I'm looking forward to meeting with everyone and getting a better understanding of the structure. And then I can certainly come back and report on that.
It's great. That's great. That's great.
And if I might interrupt,
Go ahead,
a quick search on the internet says that the reimbursement is done as a construction is done. They specifically call out that you don't need to borrow it.
Need
So
to
you're-
borrow what, the full amount?
Yeah, so you should, you might have to borrow it for the first, well, you're not on the hook to borrow it for the entire period. It's paid off by the 55 million would be paid off upon completion of each stage of construction. Plus, I think they said 15 days.
Yeah, I thought it was an incremental type of borrowing, so that makes sense.
Okay, so, yeah, so we don't get it all up front, so that's fine.
Thank you.
I had a question, Kristen.
Mhm.
Do you have a sense of the timeline for this subcommittee's work? Like when you're going to be meeting and about how many meetings you might have?
I was told by the school district in Dawn, it would just be a few day meetings. I'm honestly not sure. I was just asked last week. I'm not really sure what the time constraint is at this point.
When we met with Ross Mulcairn, he said he expected it to be 2 meetings and almost certainly held during the day.
Thanks.
So I would, go ahead, Brian, do you have something else?
No, I just said thanks.
Oh, okay. I would like to say, thank you for taking this on, Kristen. And I think I can say on behalf of the entire board that if at any point you see an area that needs to be investigated or you need more detail in and you don't think it's getting the right attention, or there's an area that should be considered for more information and there doesn't seem to be any other interest to get it, I think you have the support of this board in terms of elevating that to Ross Mulcairn or Don Lowe, in order to make sure that this is really a comprehensive and thorough evaluation of the financing options.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
I'm
Well,
sure
thanks.
you are.
Of course I am.
Once again, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
you,
Kristen.
Kristen.
Good night. Now we will go back to the issue of parking on Main Street.
Yes, so you have the memo from Randy in your packet. I should say that I've spoken with Chief Nelson as well, and this has his full support as well as Randy's. But effectively what we're looking at is if you look at the area from the Houghton building down to the traffic lights on Main Street, so down to the Wattaquatic intersection, there is one stencil in the lane that is, it's purported to be a bike lane, but it's really, if to be a bike lane, it should have more stencils than that apparently, but beyond that, you're not supposed to park in a bike lane. So we have nothing enforceable in that location at that point to prevent people from parking in that stretch. On the opposite side of the road, or the southerly side of the road, if you will, there is one no parking sign that is placed approximately after or before, depending on your orientation, where the designated parking spaces are. There's a certain number of spaces from Mechanic Street up towards the lights on that side. And there is a no parking sign. There is no corresponding no parking sign at the lights. So what the proposal is simply is to put a second no parking sign on that side at or near the lights. And then on the opposite side to put two in, one at the lights and one at the location of the Houghton building, pretty much the entrance of the Houghton building.
Brian and Stan, any questions or comments?
No, I support what Randy is attempting to do. I think it's dangerous to have cars parking there, and I fully support what Randy's doing, and I'm glad the Chief Nelson is supporting it as well.
I had one question, and maybe nobody on this call knows, but does anybody know were there any specific concerns that precipitated this proposal, or was it just based on like observations of ever since the redesign of the intersection?
On that side of the street, we have not had an accident, at least not a serious accident that I'm aware of. What precipitated that side of the street is the fact that there's something that people assume to be a bike lane there. And there should be no parking in a bike lane. And in fact, the best result would be to have the no parking signs and a couple of more stencils in that lane to make it clear that it's a bike lane. But the intent when the work was done was for that to be a bike lane. Ergo, there's supposed to be no parking in that.
Got it. Thanks.
Well, this is the first time that this has been brought up in a public meeting. And there's a lot of people, who are concerned about the way things are done in the very center of town. So if it's all right with the other two selectmen, I would not vote on this tonight. I'd want to wait until the August meeting, which is our next scheduled meeting, in order to accommodate any public comment that might come through and be able to address it at the next meeting. And then I expect in August, we would be able to have a vote on this.
It's fine with me.
Yep, I'm fine with that. That
Okay.
makes sense.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is request from Bolton Access Television for release of the 2023 capital payment in the amount of $12,000. Nikki McGatchie, how are you?
And I'm not,
You-
oh, there I am.
There you go.
How are you guys?
Good, thank
Good.
you.
How are
How
you?
are you?
I'm good.
How are things in Batco land?
Pretty well. We just finished up editing the fire muster, which was over at the Neshoba High School a few weeks ago. So it was a wet one. We had a lot of storms, but we've got a nice little highlight reel up on YouTube if anybody's interested in seeing it.
Great.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah, so the 12,000 is our annual capital payment. Oftentimes I bundle it together and request it along with one of the quarterly payments, but the way things came in this particular year, they were just kind of separate. So I'm
Is
just
this about-
requesting it by itself tonight.
Is this about the same size that you get every year?
The 12,000 is always, yes, that doesn't fluctuate. So that's written
Okay.
into our contract.
Oh, I see.
And
Okay,
it's just for capital purchases. We don't use that for any operational expenses.
okay.
Okay.
Are there any comments or questions from the select board?
Nope.
No,
Any
thanks.
comments and questions from anybody else? All right, do I have a motion on the capital payment to Bolton Access Television?
I move that we approve the request from Bolton Access Television for the release of 2023 capital payment in the amount of $12,000.
And I second that.
Okay, roll call, Stan,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
and I'm a yes also. All
Thanks,
right, thank
guys.
you very much,
Have a good
Nikki.
night.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Nikki.
Nikki.
Thanks.
All right. Next, we have a request from the Conservation Commission to continue negotiations regarding the holding in fee, which I hope will be explained to us, of the 18.11 acres of open space offered by the project applicant for South Bolton Road, Fosburg, MPA 2-C, parcel 23, to be held by the town under the management of its Conservation Commission by right of Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 8C, and Article 97. And to explain that all to us is our conservation agent, Rebecca. Good
Hi,
evening, Rebecca.
good evening. Thank you for having me on behalf of the Conservation Commission. So the short general way of explaining the concept of this very quickly is the Conservation Commission obviously manages land within the town for the town of Bolton. So two things happen, or two ways that can happen, is under a conservation restriction for holding the land in fee, meaning right ownership. A conservation restriction would have a private owner or a land trust holding the land, and the conservation restriction would be a layer over it. So relevant to this particular request and project, the property owner who's working on the proposed subdivision at this time has to work with Conservation Commission for wetland permitting, obviously, the planning board, zoning board, for the development itself. In this particular project, they are focused on doing a FOSBRD, which is farmland open space development. And through that effort, they have to put aside a certain percentage of open space. So that is what their request is to be having that held by the town. So the Conservation Commission at the last meeting had voted to recommend to the select board to allow us, meaning the Conservation Commission, to continue communications with the property owner and developer, make sure that we can work on the deed language, and obviously our council would review it, but we don't want to go down that path before, if for some reason the select board was not supportive of that. This is a common practice similar to other subdivisions within the town that go through that FOSBRD process for the Conservation Commission to hold that land as entity. We do have one that is partially private ownership, but that is not typical of what we've seen in the past. And this property has a lot of, you see, or in your package, Jenny was kind enough to share one of the maps provided by the property owner and developers team. And what you see is a lot of hatching. And what that hatching is in general is jurisdictional areas between state under Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program, and also locally and under the state under the Wetlands Protection Act. But there is some open space there that is not under either of those. And so there would be potential to connect to adjacent properties via trails, as we typically use the property for. In FOSBRD developments, it also allows for, I believe, 10% active recreation. So again, those areas that are outside of other jurisdictions within the open space would still be open and applicable to that percentage. So again, to summarize, the ask this evening is just, the commission is seeking authorization from the select board so that we can continue discussions with the current property owner to ensure that if the Conservation Commission is to hold that property and you are in support of that, make sure that we can work on the language within that document prior to it being finalized, versus receiving the land with the deed is very general and it doesn't really meet the requirements that we'd like to see in a conservation parcel. I'm happy to address any questions or attempt to.
Okay. Brian, Stan?
I had a question, Rebecca. So if I'm understanding correctly, there's still going to be at least one more opportunity beyond this for the board or the town to weigh in before making a commitment. And this is just authorization to really get into the specifics of the negotiation.
That is correct. And it's so two things. One, at least two other steps. One is the Conservation Commission has yet to issue the wetland permit, which would essentially have a condition that requires whatever action that is, whether the town holds it or holds a CR, or if the town wants a land trust to hold it, basically placing that directive in a special conditions associated with that permit for the project as a whole. The second is, well, I guess there's three. The second is the planning board or zoning board of appeals. I apologize, I'm not exactly clear on which. They still need to complete their process. And again, there's a directive within their decision on what needs to occur and who needs to hold that land to finalize that portion of the FOSBRD development special permit or decision that they issue. Yes, the other portion of that is, of course, the deed needs to be accepted, my understanding, by select board. We would have our council review it. Again, that's my understanding of the process prior to accepting it. Even if both of those decisions and the wetlands permit are issued, we still need that reviewed to make sure that it meets the necessary criteria.
Got it. Thanks.
I don't necessarily have any questions specific, but this doesn't seem to be something that has come before the select board in the past. It seems a bit different. Why is this a bit different than what we've done in the past? If maybe I'm wrong, but it just seems we've never had this kind of situation before. Is there something unique about this particular project?
Not to my knowledge. Is that a question to me, Stan?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. No, not to my understanding that this is unique in land conveyance or anything to that nature. It's my understanding that any donations need to be accepted by the select board. And so if through this process, they are donating the land essentially to the Conservation Commission, which
Okay.
we would be holding the land, that is why it's coming before you.
Okay.
I be clear, I don't know if this has come before in a form of like planning or zoning. So it maybe seems a little bit different in that aspect, but we wanted to just be sure that because the Conservation Commission is at the stage that we are with our permitting process,
Hmm?
we're not issuing a decision that directs, maybe that's it, maybe at this time, during this permitting process, the Conservation Commission is maybe wrapping up sooner than other departments, which happens, as we know, concurrently or at different times. So it may be that we're at a point where typically maybe another department is already issued a decision based on the directive of how that land is going to be held. Where in this circumstance, the commission doesn't want to be issuing something that directs the town to hold the land and then go to the select board and have it be kicked back because we didn't follow the correct process.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, you know, it's a sizable contribution, and I certainly support the acceptance of it. It's and the size of it kind of surprises me. It provokes in me a request that the planning board take a look at the Fosberg plan, because right now, as we sit here, more than 1 out of every 4 acres in Bolton is exempt from property taxes. So it's something like 27% of all the land. And certainly there'll be other opportunities for Fosbergs to be developed. I don't know if the planning board could come up with another way of accepting the land or having a conservation restriction which doesn't take it out of taxable domain. Because even though, and Brian, you can correct me on this, my understanding is even though it's not taxable, it's included in the 2.5% levy capacity that is calculated for the town. And so, whereas the levy capacity is set at 2.5% of the full value of the town, in fact, it's only 75 or 73% of the whole town that's paying the burden for that because of all this tax exempt property.
I believe that's right.
So I just want to put that out there. I don't think it has any immediate effect on this particular transaction. And having said that, if anyone wants to make a motion, now is a good time.
Well, I agree with you, Bob, but if someone's going to donate land to the town, I don't know how it gets to continue to be taxed. Who's paying the tax on that? So if it's donated to the town, it's donated to the town. So I don't understand how who's going to pay tax on something that's donated to town. But in lieu of that, and we can have that at a future discussion, I will make a motion that we approve the request from the Conservation Commission to continue negotiations regarding the holding in fee of the 18.11 acres of open space offered by the project applicant for South Bolton Road, Phosphor MPA 2.c parcel 23 to be held by the town under the management of its Conservation Commission by right of Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 8C and Article 97.
And I will second, but not repeat that motion.
Okay, roll call. Stan,
Aye.
Brian,
I,
and I'm a yes also. All right,
Um,
thank you. Thank you very much, Rebecca.
Rebecca, if
Thank
you wouldn't
you.
mind staying for one more minute, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to mention that earlier today, Rebecca helped co-host a very successful clinic. It was called the Learn to Fish Clinic, co-hosted with the Mass Wildlife Angler Education Program. And it was exactly what it sounds like. It's targeted towards youngsters, but not limited to youngsters, where people come and they learn how to fish. And we had, I think, 26 kids attend, if I remember, and we had some adults as well, and we had some people come from outside of Bolton for it. It was a very well attended event, and just another thing that Rebecca does in her job that the board may not be aware of, but you know, she just continues to do an excellent job, and I just wanted to note it.
Well, congrats, Rebecca, and thank you very much.
Yes, thank you,
as
Rebecca.
well. I
Are there any
enjoyed
fish
so.
left?
There are. It was catch and release. So
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of the evening.
thanks,
You
Rebecca.
too. Bye-bye.
next is our town administrator update.
So now that I'm done publicly embarrassing Rebecca, let me just, I don't have quite as much information tonight as I was hoping, but as the board knows well, I'm continuing to work on the second means of egress project for the Florence Sawyer Elementary School complex. And I have reached out to an engineering firm that we've done work with in the past, specifically CEI engineers. They have office space in the Paragon building in town, as well as in Connecticut. And to ask them to come out and take a look at the site, look at the options that I believe that we have, and try to give me an approximate estimate as to what the cost of engineering would be, plus any insight that they may have. The meeting was scheduled for 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock this morning. However, due to a medical emergency, they asked to reschedule. And so now we're meeting next Tuesday. So so that meeting has been pushed out to next Tuesday. But I'm encouraged. I'm more encouraged than I have been, because, as you know, I have been working very closely with Congresswoman Trahan's office, and been trying to see if there's some way that there's some funding out there somewhere for what I think is a clear school safety project. And the person in Congresswoman Trahan's office that I work very closely with emailed me a few days ago to tell me about the DOT Rural Assistance Program. And it's a new grant that's just been announced. And without reading you the whole thing, I just want to say that this is a $3.4 million pilot program developed by the DOT's Build America Bureau and funded through the BIL. It offers technical assistance grants to eligible rural communities defined as local governments located outside of an urbanized area with a population of more than 150,000 residents. Obviously, that's not us, it's outside of an urbanized area, on a first come, first served basis to hire staff or advisors to assist with early development phase activities, including, but not limited to, feasibility studies, preliminary engineering and design, environmental review, revenue forecasting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The maximum awards are $360,000. And it's on a first come first served basis. So we're going to review the site next Tuesday. We're going to work on getting a grant application together. I've already sent the details of the grant to CEI. I believe they concur that it looks like a very valid opportunity. And either, as I've been telling Jenny, either I'll pull some of the staff together to see if we've got available people to work on it, and or perhaps I can prevail upon CEI to put the grant together based on the information that they pulled together. If not, we will be bringing me out of the bullpen to write a grant. Hasn't happened for a while, but I used to do it for a living, so pretty confident that I can do it. But one way or another, I want to get that grant submitted, and it's an August deadline, so it'll be a fairly quick turnaround. But it's by far the best opportunity I've seen so far to be able to get some grant money to forward that project, or to get that project moving forward. So again, very excited about that. And I would not know about this grant if it wasn't for Congresswoman Trahan's office.
Okay, very
Great,
good.
Good luck.
Thank you. So just a couple of announcements that I'd like to make now. First of all, and I've emailed the board about this, coming up on Saturday, August 5th, 12 to 5 is our first summer fun day to be held at Camp Resolute at 75 Hudson Road. There's the color flyers that are been created, but it says come swim, kayak, paddleboard, canoe, picnic, play basketball, something I can't pronounce, et cetera, et cetera. Food for sale or bring your own. Please register at parks@townofbolton.com. The cost is $20 per family. That expense is going directly to pay for lifeguards to make sure we've got sufficient lifeguard coverage. Otherwise, this is an event that the Boy Scouts have offered to put on. There is no cost to the town for this event. It's to give the town an opportunity to see what the Boy Scout camp has to offer over there. And we've had a preliminary tour, some of us, of the camp in its current state to try to evaluate whether or not we might be able to lease some space over there next year, whether it's for some programs for seniors, to expand our Parks and Rec program. But the Scouts are very interested in making space available for use. So it's a nice way to get started. As I said in my email, we are under no obligations at all to the Scouts, but it was a very, very positive tour. And we're thinking about some ideas for next year, budget permitting, of course, but now's the time to start thinking about it. So I think that could be a very fun event.
Excellent.
Next, I would just like to note some accomplishments. Three actually. First, the Neshoba 12 and under All-Stars advanced to the state championship game this week and came up short, but did finish second in that particular state tournament. The Neshoba 10 and under baseball All-Stars won the state championship on August 9th and will advance to the New England Cal Ripken Regional Tournament this weekend in Connecticut. And the Neshoba 8 and under All-Stars begin their run for back-to-back state titles this weekend. So a lot of good stuff going on in that space, and I just wanted to congratulate all of those teams for their accomplishments. And last but not least, from the Girl Scouts of Central and Western Massachusetts, they present the Community Supporter Certificate to Lisa Sheppel in recognition of supporting the Girl Scouts in the community. And they have the same Community Supporter Certificate in the name of the Parks and Recreation Commission of Bolton. So good work being done there as well.
Yes.
So just want to share all that with the board.
Thank you very much.
Yep, congratulations to the baseball teams and good work, Lisa and Parks and Rec.
That's awesome.
Excellent.
Unless the board has any questions, that's all I have for this evening.
Okay, moving on to select board business. Are there any public service announcements?
Well, just the usual bottles and cans, for Boy Scouts, so we're talking about Scouts. Or bring your deposit bottles and cans to the Red Barn up at the top of the crest of the transfer station. And also a reminder, you now need to use the official Bolton transfer station bags, the orange and green bags. The stickers are no longer allowed to be used. You need to use orange and green bags. So I was there last week after the deadline, and there are still people who are using not only contractor bags, but they're using stickers. So we need to get everybody to move to the new standard. So.
Right, and I understand it's frustrating to some people, but please do not take it out on the people at the transfer station. This is not their decision. If you have any issues, please bring it to the town administrator or one of the selectmen.
Absolutely.
Any future agenda items?
I think we need to have an agenda item next month to perhaps discuss one to let people know exactly what to be expected relative to the bonding or the lending for the new high school, if that does get passed, and what the implications of that are. And I also would like to have a discussion of requesting, I don't have it in front of me, but there is a Mass General Law that stipulates that the school committee needs to provide an audit of what they did relative to the school budget and the decisions that were made. And we'll get that on the agenda and exactly what it is. But I will ask that the school committee provide that audit result to the Board of Selectmen.
All right. Brian, anything?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Next up is a discussion on the building permit fees for the proposed high school. The origin of this is a budget sheet that the school district, the building committee presented back in, I think, January or February, that proposed Bolton forego $2 million in revenue associated with the building fees for the high school. We then had a meeting with the superintendent and the project manager where that subject came up and was addressed. We said we would follow up on it and do more work on it. There were some legal questions about what was allowed and what was not allowed in a project of this area. And I would like to ask Don to recap his conversations with our legal counsel on the legal issues that were presented at those prior meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I believe the Mass General Law that was cited in that meeting was Chapter 40, Section 22, if I'm remembering correctly. Could be 22F, but in any event, and it had to do with what is acceptable as far as issuing fees for a project. And the short answer is that, as according to our attorney, was that there may be other applicable statutes as well beyond that, but the bottom line is that as long as the town is implementing a fee structure that is not excessive and not out of line with anything else, or what another community in the area would do, we're perfectly fine. We review our fee structures on a fairly regular basis. We are certainly not excessive in any way. At times we may be a little low, But I think the important factor here is that the way the fees would be assessed for this project, if it passes, is identical to what we would do, for example, for 580 Main Street. Or a project like a 580 Main Street, like any commercial project. So there, the law is intended to make sure that a municipality doesn't try to use this as a revenue generator. You know, it's meant to cover the expenses of a town. It's not meant to be a profit center, and that would not be our approach. Obviously, we would approach it the same as any other building project. So the short answer is, town council feels that what we're, if we assess the appropriate permit fees, which we would, then we're certainly fine and in compliance with any applicable law.
Okay, so the permit fees we're talking about, are those already established and that were in place before the building project got to the estimating stage?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Stan and Brian, any questions, comments?
No, it sounds like from what Don is saying that the district is asking us to waive those building permit fees, and from what I can understand is that we are under no obligation to do so. Is that correct?
It is, and further, we are, yes, that is correct. That is absolutely correct.
Okay. So I see we should be doing anything.
Stan, you broke up for that last
Yes.
summation.
Yes, I see no reason why we should be waiving any of the building permit fee, applicable building permit fees for this project.
Okay. Any other comments?
I had a question, and I don't know, actually, Bob, if you know the answer, and it may have been mentioned at the prior meeting, but the district's computation of the fee amount, was that done just sort of on their own, or did they connect with the town of Bolton on that ahead of time? Like, are those their numbers or our numbers?
Maybe Don knows more about this, but I believe that's their number.
That's
That
correct.
They took our published fee schedule and calculated it on their own.
That's correct. The town was not involved in that calculation.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Now, as this is what we're questioning, or what's been brought into question here, is our standard procedure. There is no need for a vote of this committee unless we decide to change the standard procedure. I'm not inclined to change it. And so unless someone wants to make a motion to change it, or someone wants to put it on the agenda for the August meeting to make a decision, I would not be asking for a vote tonight, nor would I be planning to bring it up again.
I'm not asking for anything. I think we let it slide.
Okay. We have consensus on that?
Yep.
Okay. Very good. Next on our agenda is vote to approve an additional $100 in longevity pay for employees with over 20 years of service to the town of Bolton. Is it appropriate if I read the roster of people eligible for this?
I think it's extremely appropriate. I think the residents should know who our longest serving employees are.
All right, well, I'll start with the longest serving person, who is Warren Nelson, police chief of 30 years service to the town of Bolton. Kelly Collins is 25 years of service. Lorraine Kenny is 25 years of service. Donna Farnsworth is 24 years of service. Nate Berry, 23 years of service. Kimberly Barry, 22 years of service. And Scott Dwinells, 21 years of service. We want to thank you all very much for your consistency during that period of time. Any comments or questions or motions?
I move that we approve the longevity request for the employees that you just mentioned.
And I second that, and thanks to all of them.
Absolutely.
Okay, roll call, Stan,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
I'm a yes also. Next, we have year-end gift acceptance. We have a list of gifts. I believe it's the tradition to actually read through them. Is that correct?
I actually do believe it is, yes.
All right. We have, unless I name a specific person, we have multiple people who are not specifically identified donating to these particular amounts. So for example, the first one is various people have donated a total of $200 to Hometown Heroes. Similarly, we have a total of $375 to the Library Memorial Fund, $250 to the Parks and Recs Donation Committee, $35 again to the Hometown Heroes, $50 for fuel, I'm sorry, $220 for senior fuel assistance, $50 for Hometown Heroes, $250 for senior fuel assistance, $50 for an ambulance donation, $200 for Parks and Rec donation from Country Cupboard. For various people donated to the Senior Fuel Assistance Fund in an amount of $180. I'm getting ahead of myself here. We have a collection of $1,100 to the ambulance fund, another $862 to senior fuel, $2,500 to senior fuel, $325 to the Library Memorial Fund.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
I
Just wanted
missed the
to,
Lions Club.
yeah, I just wanted to know that that
I
was the
missed the Lions
2,500.
Club made this, they're the ones who made the substantial donation of $2,500 to senior fuel assistance. $100 to the Police Gift Fund, $1,100 to senior fuel assistance, $420 to the Wreath Donation Fund, $100 to the Library Memorial Fund, $2,692 to the Senior Fuel Assistance. Murphy Insurance has donated $10,000 to the Police Gift Fund. Various donors have contributed $400 to Senior Fuel Assistance, $300 to the Library Memorial Fund. The Bolton Conservation Trust has donated $2,500 as a conservation gift for the town. Various people have donated $1,030 to Hometown Heroes. Bolton Bean has donated $500 to the Police Gift Fund. The Bolton Conservation Trust made another gift of $3,500 to a conservation, and we have a remaining $25 for senior fuel assistance. In total, this is $29,264 in donations, for which we are very lucky that people are willing to be so generous. Thank you.
Yep. And I believe the Murphy Insurance gift of $10,000 is going to the Comfort Dog.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, so that's greatly appreciated.
Yes.
Great.
Do I have a motion on accepting the gifts?
Make a motion, we accept the gifts as read for a total of $29,264.
Second that.
All roll call, Stan,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
I'm a yes also.
And I'll just mention that Casey brought the Comfort Dog into town hall the other day, and he's really, really adorable, and he got sworn in by our town clerk.
That's great.
I'm going to pause to appreciate that.
That's
right.
great.
Next on our agenda is to appoint Carolyn Robertson as a library trustee.
Mr.
was a
Chairman,
resi-
we actually have an update to that agenda item.
Okay,
That was a clerical error. The name of the person to be appointed as library trustee is what, Jenny? I don't have the name in front of me. I'm sorry.
Beth Connors.
Thank you. Beth Connors.
Beth Connors, okay,
Caroline is already a trustee.
okay. That explains why the name's so familiar. There was a resignation before the person's term was over earlier this year on the library trustees. The existing library trustees, including Carolyn Robertson, interviewed several people and are recommending that the select board appoint Beth Connors to the open position. Is there any discussion?
I'm assuming that this position was advertised.
Yes, it was.
Okay. I have no questions. I'll appoint to make a motion to approve Beth Connors as library trustee.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call, Stan,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
and I'm a yes also. Next, we are going to approve the bills and payroll warrants W 23-25, W 23-25A, 23-26, W 23-26A, and W 23-27, and W 23-27A, W 24-00, and W 24-00A, and W 24-01, and W 24-01A. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, Stan,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
I'm a yes also.
I'm assuming, Jenny, that these are waiting for our signature.
In a very large pile. Yes, they are.
Okay, I'll be in tomorrow.
And we do have a couple of minutes for review. Specifically, we have the minutes of May 25th and June 8th. May 25th had no changes, is that correct?
That is correct. And I have the June 8th very minor changes that I could pull up. Are you seeing my screen?
Yep.
Yes, you got 3 pages
Excellent.
showing. Terrific job there.
Pretty fancy. Probably very tiny on your screens, is it?
Yeah.
The only changes are, my apologies to Brian, I omitted you. I obviously use a template to create these, and I had the wrong chair calling the meeting to order.
Make a motion to approve the minutes
I
as
second.
as displayed.
I second that.
Roll call, Stan,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
I'm a yes also. Jenny and Don, are there any other issues we need to cover?
Well, Stan said as displayed, and I just want to clarify that there was the other set of minutes as well that had no changes that I did not display, which was
Okay,
May
So
25th.
we need a separate motion on the May 25th minutes.
Motion to approve May 22nd minutes.
I'll second that.
All those, I'm sorry, Stan, roll call,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
I'm a yes also.
Thank you, and sorry to be persnickety.
No, that's fine. Are there any other issues we need to bring forth?
Well, actually, in our packet, there is a listing for the special town meeting for September 18th, but it is not on the agenda.
No, that was for informational purposes. We will be getting an update. We will be getting a draft warrant out to you probably next week.
Okay.
And then obviously you'll be voting the warrant on the 24th.
Okay,
What you've got is just the final calendar.
gotcha.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Stan,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
I'm a yes also. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Good night.
Thanks. Have a
Thank
good
you.
one. Thanks, Don
Thank
and
you,
Jenny.
everyone. Thank you. Have a good
Thank
night.
you. The time for the record is 8:01.